All right. For a moment, I had to pause, you know, because now I'm realizing that I'm reliving these emotions, and sometimes it's really difficult to articulate or express them effectively. So sometimes you just need to take a moment and really have self-talk with yourself, and understand that why are you doing it this time around, because you just engulfed and paralyzed with fear when you need to tell it all over again, and telling it involves reliving it. That means the emotions are there. So one thing that I love is that now I'm telling it not for my own good, but I'm telling it so that people that are going through the same situations, similar or even different, could actually identify themselves in my story. That's one of the ways I was triggered into healing. I listened to somebody's story and I was like, she's me. And mind you, at that time, the enemy kept on lying to me and saying, you're the only one who has gone through such this, because the enemy will keep you in that dark place. He will keep you in that deception, where you feel like your past traumatic experiences are just uniquely to you and people will never understand, and that there's nobody who's going through the same things that you're going through. So I'm going to go back and speak about what was happening in my marriage, in my life at the time. So after the miscarriage, we continue living our lives as a normal couple, until the next thing happens. Obviously, I'm just going to account of the things that really impacted me, that shifted my paradigm shift, that really caused something in me to die, So I'm going to talk about those incidents or occurrences. Another one that I remember of, even though it happened before we got married, I remember at that time I was feeling so much pain. What happened was that he told me that he's going to a camp that weekend, because he was a sports person. He's going to camp. They're having a game on the weekend. So I think I was in town on that Saturday and I met the club manager, and we had a conversation with him, and I was like, how come you're here? Are you not supposed to be at camp? He was really puzzled. He was like, what camp? We don't have camp that weekend. So that's how I understood. I could tell that he could see that I was lied at, and he wished he could take back his words, but it was too late. So I was furious. I was really furious. But more than anything, I felt this excruciating pain, emotional pain. And I know that it was a pile up of so many things. And at that point, I just lost it, you know. I remember going to the house and thinking, what is it that I could do to get rid of this pain? Something that is quick and fast, you know. I wasn't even thinking of what I was attempting to do, you know. All that I thought of was that I can't, this pain is way too much for me. Like, I can't carry it. I just want to go to a place where I don't feel any pain anymore. So that is how I attempted suicide, you know. And thank God there was nothing accessible that was effective enough to end my life quickly and fast, because what I knew of at the time was a Weevil tablet and you couldn't just access it, you know. So what I did was I collected every pills that I found in the house, you know. And after doing that, after drinking so much of it, I made a phone call to him, told him that now I know that you were lying to me. But please do me a favor. Tell my son I love him dearly. Tell my family that I love them. And they must never blame themselves of whatever happens to me, you know. I wasn't really out in the open to say what I had planned to do or what I was doing. So somehow he sensed it, you know. And what he did was that he called a neighbor, you know. I don't know what he said to her, but whatever he said, they were there in an instant. And what I had done was that I didn't lock I didn't lock the house. But I left the keys outside because you could lock from the inside. I left the keys outside, just in a place where we usually put the keys. So she was knocking on the door. I wasn't answering. And she called to say there's no one here. And he said he must check for the key where we usually place it. She found the key. She opened it and she went and she went in and saw me, and she was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I was okay." There was nothing funny there. You couldn't tell what I had done at the time. I was like, "No, I'm fine. I was just sleeping." So he came back home. I think after an hour or so, he found me in a state. I was okay. I was really okay. And he was like, "What were you planning to do?" I was like, "There's nothing that I was planning to do. There's nothing that I did." So he kept on telling me he's sorry. Can we go out? You know, he didn't want to leave my side. You know, I was like, "Can we go out, be with friends?" I didn't want to say what I had done. I was like, "Cool, we can go." You know, I was okay up until midnight. I started to throw up. Yeah, it was just a horrible sight because some of the pills were coming out solid. I was throwing up, and then he got to find out what I had done. You know, I was throwing up a lot. I then told him what I did, you know. So, you know, the funny thing, he never even suggested that I should go to hospital or something. I remember I suggested that can you try and prepare green tea for me, you know, so I could take it in so that I could throw up, because now I was throwing up like it was just happening automatically, and I felt I was running out of strength, you know. So I was like, I need to take out this poison in me. So that I was throwing up the whole night until morning. I was dizzy. You know, the sad part, he was there, but he wasn't paying attention. I think he told himself that I'm tired. So just do your thing, throw up the whole night. Until morning. Something that really threw me off the rails was that morning a friend of his came through, and he was like, I need to live with him. Imagine, he left me in that state. And at the time, all that I wanted was to be okay, was to be fine. I think I was regretting everything, you know. And when he had gone, I even thought that, imagine if this was successful. So I was gonna take my life with somebody who has even left me in this state, you know. A lot in me had changed, you know. A lot had changed, because when I look back, I wouldn't be in that state. But I don't know what was going on in my mind that led me to be in that place, you know. You know, sometimes I understand, you know, when they say broken people attract broken people, hurt other people. I wanna acknowledge my role in this dysfunctional situation, you know. Because I'd love to shift blame. I'd love to shift blame and be like, yeah, he was the cause of all my struggles. But honestly, when I take stock, I understand that it started with me. You know, I couldn't deal with my own stuff. I couldn't deal with my own baggage to a point where I allowed the abuse to continuously take place in my life, because I didn't feel worthy of being loved, you know. I just thought he's one person who really understands me, because we've been through things together. I just never saw life outside of that box, you know. Because clearly, how do you stay with somebody who does that to you? All that I wanted was explanations to, just for my conscience, you know. Because I was like, every time something bad would happen, I would wait for him to explain himself. And after hearing that explanation, it doesn't matter whether it was a lie or it was truth, the fact that I got that explanation made it okay. You know, I was then codependent. I found my value in him, you know. because what I felt to do was, I was still hurting. What I realized is that I had so much pain in my life that I never took that pain to God to say, to be vulnerable and say, Lord, I'm healing. I'm in pain. I'm in pain. I'm in pain and please heal me. I just wanted to use my own strength and ability in fixing things, and obviously I was failing at doing that. And you know, one of the good things that came out of that marriage is that it brought me closer to God, you know, because sometimes you try communicate, sometimes you do everything in the book, because now you think the problem is with you. Maybe you're not good enough, maybe you're not submissive enough, maybe you're not the good weight, like a lot of things. So, and I tried all of them, believe me, I tried all of them. It just didn't work. What I know is that his character, the traits, only it said one thing. Now that I understand, that he was also broken. He was also dealing with his own baggage. And you know, it's so funny how we gravitate to those people. You know, whole people attract whole people, and broken people will always attract broken people. And the sad part of being broken, you can't even, there's that phase where you don't even know that you're broken. You don't even know. I remember one time I got to find out that he impregnated another woman, you know, and I only got to find out about it when the baby was born, and I only got the news in the streets. When I say in the streets, a close friend of mine shared the news with me, you know. And what I understood was that the whole family knew, his family side, and nobody took the responsibility of letting me know. As a wife, you know, it was concealed, you know. I felt so betrayed, you know, at that moment, not only by him but also by his family, you know. And it led to me deserting my marital home and leaving, you know. I remember packing my stuff and leaving him because I just couldn't take it anymore. I just couldn't take it anymore. I wanted out, but at that time, I moved out of my marital home because I was emotional. It was not a move where I rationalized it, you know. I just left him, and what happened after, he came back like he would always do, begging me, saying he's sorry. Guess what? I went back to him. I still stayed. Another time, I found out he had an affair. This one was very salty, you know, not to say that other affairs he had didn't affect me, but this time it was my sister, you know. And you can imagine finding out that he had the audacity of cheating, having an affair with somebody I call family. Those were it was too much. I don't know if I was still processing all that I was going through, because I remember one time I decided, you know what, Nosizo, you are responsible for your own happiness, because we get to know all these ideologies that the media would sell to us, and if you feel like it speaks to you, you make it your own, you know. I was lying to myself. I had psyched my mind. I was like, you're responsible for your own happiness. So what I then resulted in doing was that I didn't allow myself to feel anymore, you know. I didn't want to go through the emotions of pain. So I closed the door. So everything that happened after, it was suppressed. It was in a closed junk drawer, to a point where I couldn't cry anymore. There was a time I would cry myself to sleep, you know, to a point whereby I was numb. I was never moved. Obviously, because I think I had a coping mechanism of shutting all those emotions of pain. The only emotions that I allowed were emotions of pain, of happiness, joy, excitement, any other thing that was negative. I wasn't going through it. So I was numb most of the time. Yeah. You know, when I finally decided, when I really, really interrogated myself, was because, remember, I told you I had left my marital home because he had impregnated another girl, which later apparently okay, maybe that's a story for another day, but it later the child was not his, but yes, he was having an affair with her, and there were chances of impregnating her, and there was a period where he thought it was his child, like for months, until eventually the truth came out. So after I left because of that incident, I went back. Recall, no, that's not what happened. I don't know what was the conflict, but I remember when, yeah, that was it. It was the pregnancy issue. When he begged me, when we were trying to work things out, I conceived my second baby, my second beautiful daughter. Because now it was a vicious cycle of breaking up, making out, breaking up and making out. And in the process of that, I remember what actually made me to go back was that this time he pulled another trick out of his sleeve that I really fell for. He was like, you know what, this time I want us to really work it out. So I suggest we go through counseling. We go through counseling. You will decide where you want us to go through counseling. I was so excited. I remember I called one of my pastors, who's a marriage counselor, and she was more than welcome to do those sessions with us. And we went to those sessions, and while we're in the process of healing our marriage, because I think after some sessions I then go back home. I went back to my marital home, and when I went back, he would come up with excuses. Now, I'm running late. Can we cancel? Can we postpone for the next week? It was that, and he just never committed. And then we didn't finish the course. You know, he was really good at humiliating me in front of people, you know, because even that on its own was such an embarrassment moment, you know. How do you play with people's time like that? I mean, life is as serious as life is. How do you even trick us in believing that you wanna be straight? And I remember those times he was attending, there were a few sessions he was attending church with me, and that was just, for him it was a game, you know. So I conceived my second daughter. Yeah, the relationship was in shambles. It was in shambles.